Thanks, guys. I'm Alan Osner. I am a landscape architect. We're here to talk about rain gardens. And I hear you all already know a little bit about rain gardens. Is this anybody? Okay. What do y'all know about rain gardens? It can be trap water. Awesome. Anything else? Okay, we're done. No. Okay. No. So rain gardens are a great thing. They're great for the environment in several different ways. And they do a lot of different things, and we're going to talk about them. So, okay, so this is a rain garden, and it's a great example. What do you see? Green. Fantastic. That's the garden part. Water. And that's the rain part. It's a nice shape. It's enjoyable. Water tends to form. Oh, this is for questions. Okay, thank you. Water tends to form in kind of bowl shapes. I feel like I'm trapped back here. You ever come around?
Yes.
Okay.
Little spots to walk through.
Okay. Yep. Come out. Right. Okay, good. Miss Birchfield has some ideas on that.
Sure. Yeah, so basically rain gardens, like Alan said, are gardens designed to capture stormwater runoff. They're generally built in kind of a bowl shape, so that rainwater, runoff water specifically, from impervious surfaces like rooftops, parking lots, roadways. So when all that water is rushing off, the goal with a rain garden is to try to capture that water and hold it in place instead of just letting the stormwater rush off into our storm drains. Because once water gets into our storm drains, it goes directly into creeks untreated. And not only would that contribute contaminants to the watershed, but it's also going to be a larger volume of water, which could cause flooding problems if you have too much water rushing off at once. And so the goal with these rain gardens is to try to capture and hold some of that runoff water, to not only keep it on site, to try to prevent some flooding issues, but also to clean out some of the contaminants from the water, and then let that water soak into the ground and try to help recharge our groundwater resources.
Any questions about that or ideas? Okay, so I don't need both of these. There are a few other things going on in this picture that are great to talk about with rain gardens. So we've seen the water shaped like a circle, and it's green. What else do you see? There's rocks. It's okay to say it. What are the rocks doing? There are two kinds of rocks. Never thought we'd talk about rocks, did you?
Does it slow down the water so not too much gets into it at once?
Exactly. These rocks up here, the water's either zooming in or zooming out. I can't tell which. Same difference, because if we don't have rocks, what happens? It erodes. Someone else has got to say something. I know y'all know it. It'll erode. What's erosion?
Come on, guys.
Nobody knows what erosion. Come on. What's erosion? You can answer. If you want. I'm giving you a hard time. I'm sorry. Okay. I was mean. I'm sorry. Erosion is when forces destroy part of our earth. Wind can rip off topsoil in Kansas and really heavy windy areas. Water rips off topsoil in northwest Arkansas every day and zooms it down the Mississippi. It piles up by the boatload and blocks rivers and streams. Doesn't just block Mississippi, blocks rivers in Arkansas, Oklahoma. And the reason that happens is the water is zooming too fast into the streams, too fast down the streams. We have created an environment where we've hardened the surfaces with concrete and roofs, where when the water hits them, it shoots down. We've all seen water shooting down a street or a driveway. Multiply that 1,000,000 times across the U.S., and when the water does finally hit a stream, it's 10 times bigger than the stream understands. It's going 10 times faster, and it just chews up our waterways. And that's what Ms. Birchfield's talking about. Rain gardens help to slow that down. Lots of pools, if you think about it. And that can really help solve a lot of problems. So several different things going on here. I don't want to go too long. Okay. Any other questions or ideas? The one last thing I want to point out is, who is this built for? Or why did they do this? Why did they build this?
I just thought, guys, what some of the functions of a rain garden? Whatever.
Y'all have already said a few. The environment's good.
I think it's pretty, and it makes me feel good to look at.
I think it's pretty too. What's this for? Gardens are for people. They really are. Gardens help the environment, but if people don't interact with them, we miss the point. Gardens are always for people. We need to think about how we interact, how we view it. Can we cross it? That'd be nice. Can we come near it? Could we sit near it? So when we build these things, we need to think about the way people interact with them too. So, questions? Cut downs, okay. This is a little cutaway. It just shows kind of underground what goes on in a rain garden. Rain gardens are a big puddle, so to speak. They really are only about 6 to 8 inches deep. Any deeper and they start to get problems. The types of plants, we want to look at native plants. Y'all know about native plants? Ever heard of them? No? Native plants are the types of plants that were growing in North America before the European visitors or conquerors, explorers, I don't know what they're called. So native plants understand the drought of Arkansas, the brutal soils, which are essentially solid clay and rock, and they can also handle a really wet weather event, which we get. We get everything here. We get droughts, we get storms. Native plants can survive all that stuff, and they don't need heavy watering, and they don't need fertilizers. Their roots are about 10 times deeper than what we call the imports or the exotics. If we all go to a nursery today and pick out some pretty flowers and plants, chances are 9 out of 10 out of 10 are going to be imported plants from probably China. They're pretty, we all plant them, but they didn't start here. So they have a few drawbacks. So for this garden, we're going to try to plant natives that are much more rugged and they promote the local ecology. So, questions? Okay. All right, what's this? That's close enough. Storm drain is, yes. This is a mess, isn't it? This is nothing to write home about. What's going on? In the middle of the parking lot.
The drain is higher than what the water can go over. The design doesn't look right.
Right. This is higher, so it's forming a big lake. So the trick, this is a type of rain garden. This is more of a bioswale, which means much bigger and it holds water longer. We're going to build a rain garden, but there are a lot of similarities. What are all these little checks. Why didn't they just fill these in and keep the water out of the landscape area? Got all these little cutouts. Why'd they do that? So the water could get in. Thank you. This is designed to accept all this water. Every time you see paving, we all live around paving, there's a film of oil from our cars, chemicals, antifreeze, which is poison. If your pet ever drinks antifreeze, it's not good. The first 15 minutes of every rain, 90% of those poisons run off. They call that first flush. Rooftops of buildings are covered with essentially a layer of poison too, even though it's not in vehicles. The land and the plants can help to uptake and hold the poisons that we spread on our world. If we can get the runoff just to sit here just for a few minutes, the plants can help absorb a lot of those toxins. And you're exactly right. This is too high. If they did it right, what happens when this moat fills up to the top of that? It'll start to go in right before the parking lot floods. It was balanced and designed with just that, so that this area will fill up, do its job, keep the parking lot dry because it's flowing into that drain at just the right minute, and the plants are still helping solve the poisons that we spread in our modern world. Any questions? You might note that the stones here and all the all the mulch, piles of mulch sitting out. We were just talking about this before the meeting. Mulch is great on the sides. Do y'all know what mulch is? Wood chips. If we put wood chips in the middle, what would happen? They'll float. They'll float away. So stones are a great solution for the inside of our rain gardens. It's called the ponding area. Keep the wood chips from floating off. Questions? Okay. I'm sure yours will be much prettier than this. This is ugly, but explains things. Okay, another rain garden. Anything interesting y'all have a question about? The point here is that it can be pushed right up against a road. It doesn't have to be a special thing set back in the background. You can squeeze them in wherever you want. Rain comes, works its way down these stones. There's a pond hidden in those flowers or something, and there's another way for the water to get out that we can't see. All native plants. Okay. This is a rain garden I designed. I was lucky enough to be in on it. It's a church in Fayetteville, Presbyterian Church. You can go look at it. This is a bowl. Can't see from that photo, but it fills up. It is wood chips. That was a mistake by the volunteers who built it. All native plants. Gardens are for people. Churches like to have quiet places where you can go. Nice little pathway. Any questions? Okay, real quick, I want to change for a second. Are any of you all interested or give a hoot to understand my job as a professional? Or Miss Birchfield's job? Anyone? I have a 17-year-old. He's very interested in jobs. I could talk about jobs for like 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 2. What do y'all want to know? Doesn't have to do with rain gardens. I am self-employed. I'm independent. I work for myself. I've worked for other companies for years, many years. I've worked for home builders. We developed subdivisions. In other words, we took a farm, scraped it off, put in streets, and they started building houses. I work for architecture firms in Tulsa. Now I'm self-employed, and people hire me mostly to redo their yards and churches and gardens and a little bit of parks. So that's what I do. I did have to get a special degree for it in architecture, landscape architecture.
Where'd you get that at?
I got it at U of A, right here in Northwest Arkansas, Fayetteville.
Go through the whole program here in Arkansas and do what you do.
Yep, could. It's a 5-year degree. Most degrees are 4 years, and you need to add one to everything. When most people tell you a 4-year degree, most people take 5. So a 5-year degree, most people take 6.
So all these businesses that come in, are they hiring someone like you that says, hey, this is a field we want for the front of our business, have at it,
Yes,
go, and then you've got to deal with water and all those other things?
that's right.
Okay,
When you go to get a building permit to build Rogers High School, there's an architect building the building, and there has to be someone handling everything outside the building. All these beautiful walks, all these neat stairways, all these curves, those were all designed by a guy like me. It wasn't me. I wish it were me. This place is beautiful, but it's complicated. So probably a big firm, probably out of, I don't know, Tulsa or Little Rock or Oak City.
so
Who?
how does that happen? Does somebody look at the lay of the land first, or do you start and then say, here's what has to happen with water to another architect that's building the building, or do y'all work together at the same time, or how does that work?
Right. Great question. It's a layering dialogue. Normally the client, the school district, has set aside a piece of land that they want to build a school on. And they call the civil engineer. Y'all know much about civil engineers? I work with them every day. Civil engineers are the real mechanics who, if you think of a mechanic who puts together your car, a civil engineer puts pipes, buildings, wires in your cities and your buildings, underground normally, and your streets and your neighborhoods. These guys are the mechanics who keep our world together. They're usually the first who say, well, Mr. School District, I know you've got that land, but it's not going to work. You need to go somewhere else. If they kind of get a soft general maybe from the civil, they'll hire an architect, they'll do some sketches. Eventually, they need me. It's a chain of vital command, so to speak. Civil engineers have to approve it, the idea. Architects have to say, well, yeah, we can get a building in there. And eventually, they hire a guy like me. Okay, we can get the walks. We don't want to make a lake for everyone to walk in here, so we'll tilt it to drain.
You're a landscape architect.
I'm a landscape architect. Even though it says landscape, I don't always plant bushes. We do that, but it's about 10 to 20% of my job is plants and flowers, believe it or not. It's
Here's an example, guys. We just bought a piece of land over Garrett Road in Bellevue, if you know where Garrett Road in Bellevue is, to build a new elementary school. When they just decided, yes, we're going forward with building, guess what? Where they wanted to put the building, we had to have a retention pond. That means a body of water was going to sit there. Now, how would that be with elementary kids? You would not want a pond around an elementary school, right? So we have this piece of land, and now they say we're ready to build a school, and probably the civil engineer, I don't know, said, if you build it here where you think you're going to build it, you have to have this and this. That's not going to work for an elementary school. So now they're trying to decide what part of the property can we build it on to where we don't have to have a body of water. So that's an example going on right now in our school district.
a great
An
example.
elementary school that
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to be easy just to put up a building, but there's more that goes into it.
Right, right. So any quick questions? I do want Miss Birchfield. Yes,
I have a
Teresa.
question.
Sure.
I'm just curious. So, to get a landscape architect degree,
Mm-hmm.
how much math
Great. You'd be surprised. No, not calculus. The stuff I am responsible for is a lot more geometry, basic algebra. Here again, my son's a high school senior. His algebra is way over what I have to do every day. Now, if you're going to be an architect or engineer, major math. Those guys build things that can fall down. The things that I build are generally on the earth. They're flat. I do a few structures. My license does not allow me to build structures over 6 to 8 feet tall. If you think safety, safety is the total dominating factor in my world. So I'm not licensed to build things that can fall down. I sketch them and hand them off to someone else to fully approve them. So algebra and geometry big time, constantly. And that's the extent. The science is a lot more horticulture and environmental science than it is pure physics or things like that. It's a lot more real world type of science.
So you do have to get a license once you graduate from college, then you'll go and you'll get a license to practice.
You do. You have to, just like a lot of licenses, you have to intern under someone who has a license for, I think it was 3 years, and I have to prove it. And then I have to sit for big exams, just like a CPA or a lawyer or even teachers have to be approved. You have to pass. And I passed, eventually. So that's kind of the pathway that I had to do to get to this professional job. Any other quick questions? I know Ms. Burke. Yes?
I don't know if you do, but do you have to do like food? I realize, do you ever plant food gardens?
You bet.
Can
Food.
that work for a rain garden too? Like just food?
You know, that's a great question. Absolutely. The requirements are a little different. Most crops, is what we call food plants, don't like to sit in water. But sometimes around the edges, if you picture the bowl, 3 types of plants, kind of dry, a little bit, and muck plants, because they're going to get really wet. So you circle them like that. Up on your edges, it's possible to put in some crops. It's a great idea. We could, look into it further.
So you said the whole thing about like the pavement and like oil and gas and antifreeze and stuff running into your garden. So if that gets into like your carrots and your carrots, is it like that?
That is a really good question. That might be accurate. Now that I think, I've never really thought that through. We don't want crops in here.
Yeah.
We do not want crops in here. There are a few toxins that will do what's called upload. If someone scrapes an old house, scrapes the old paint, and the lead chips, they're all lead. They fall in the dirt. It won't hurt anybody unless you plant a tomato right there. That tomato can upcharge and hold lead. And if you plant crops near certain poisons, they can upcharge. So we don't want to do that. So, would you like to talk about your job and career and interest?
So
I don't want to take the whole time.
I'll just go real quick because I know we want to get back to the rain garden. But I'm the project manager, and again, I work for Illinois River Watershed Partnership. And so we're a nonprofit watershed protection group. And my background is in environmental science. So I went to school at the University of Central Arkansas out of Conway, and I got my bachelor's degree in environmental science. And there was a little bit of math involved that I had to go through calculus 1. I had to have biochemistry, I had to go through organic chem 1, and then lots of biology classes. So vertebrate and invertebrate zoology, I took plant classes, I took ecology, all that kind of stuff. So it was a lot more intensive on the biological side of the classes. But I only needed to get that bachelor's degree. And like Mr. Ostner said, typically 4-year degrees are going to take you a little bit longer.
Excuse me, let me slide through. Sorry. Thanks.
Plan out your classes right, you can power through and stay close to it on time. Before this position, I actually worked for the Arkansas Department of Health out of Little Rock. And I was in the source water protection section, working with water operators around the state. So places like Beaver Water District, where we get our drinking water from, that's kind of who I worked with. And I worked on mapping out potential contamination sources within their source water protection areas. So those are the areas that they're most concerned about toxins and chemicals on the ground, because again, all that runoff water is going to go into the lake, and then they're going to have to treat that and clean it to a certain standard to make it safe for everyone to drink. And so that's what I did there. So the environmental science degree is kind of gives you some options. You can go multiple different routes with a degree like that.
All right.
Does anybody have any questions?
You want to talk about your position real quick?
Well, I work for county government, and our division actually enforces environmental laws, regulations, state laws, and county ordinances as well that have to do with environmental laws. So when people are driving down the road and dumping a pile of tires, or I know you've all seen a chair on the side of the road, or even trash, bags of trash, we do investigations. We try to find out who it was that did that illegal dumping, and then we will get with that person, and most likely they'll be written a ticket, and they'll have to go to court and answer to the judge for why they illegally dumped on the side of the road. But I'm the one that gets to do the fun part. I get to go around and teach people about how to take care of our environment. So I work a lot with high schools, elementary schools. I go to a lot of community events and talk to people. I also work with NWAC a lot, so I have a lot of fun being able to get out and talk to people and teach them about how to care for the environment.
Awesome.
Okay, our deal with the school, was that because it was a wetland and we had, I guess here's where I'm headed with this. So these are really wetlands that we're building in a way.
Absolutely, a type of
Okay.
wetland.
And so I wondered if our school property was a wetland that needed to be replaced. And so someone from the county or whatever says, you've got to allot so much water that would normally be there. That makes sense what I'm asking?
Well-
On our school property, what she's saying. Like it's a
Yes.
huge water garden that they're
Yes.
saying that you've got to build there if you want to build on this property.
That's right. It's possible. Now, my only wonder is that when that does happen, it's from the very, very beginning. In other words, if DEQ is that, it's the state equivalent of EPA. We've all heard of EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. The Arkansas Department of Environmental Quality is in charge of making sure we don't completely wreck our natural resources in our state. And if they did see this property where Rogers High is as needing supplemental wetland, they would have required it before the school opened. So, got a good point. There could have been something here before the school was built, but I bet they would have required that.
I was talking about what she was talking about, that we bought that property.
Yes, excuse me. I got my that's exactly what's going on. That's exactly. There's water heading to that area right now naturally. Excuse me, I had my properties. It might not be visible to the district and whomever drove by, realtor, frankly. And the civil said, whoa, no. This map here says this is a watershed, water gathers here, it fills up. We have to provide that after, yes, that's exactly.
Which is kind of like a huge rain garden that
Yes, it is.
someone said you've got to have.
Yes, it is. Yep,
Okay.
yep.
That's,
That's,
carry on.
yes. So, real quick, class is almost out. This that I handed out is an overview of, well, y'all know the site we're looking at, right? Can you get oriented with the little piece of paper? See the parking spaces? See the 2 trees that are there? Yeah, hold this up. This dash line is the sort of, it's called a detention pond, just a low pit that's grass, and it fills up in the rain.
Would this help you?
Yes, thank you. I think you're psychic. So, yeah. So this is our site, and this is where y'all walked yesterday, I believe, right?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So, do some doodles. Do some doodles before class gets out. That's what a charrette is. It's a quick, that we all force ourselves to just put something down, right or wrong. No one's going to hold you to it. You don't get a grade on it. And I have pencils if you need them.
Because guys, this part of this whole thing that Mrs.
Anyone?
Steen was pretty insistent on is that you guys have a part in the design.
Right.
And no, not one person's design is going to make it, because he's gonna take them and take some of the best and what does it have to be and things like that. But she was pretty insistent that it be part, and part of that goes back to our memorial to Miss Allen. She would have wanted kids to be involved, and she would have wanted your designs, because that's the kind of person she was. And if you guys had her, you know that. Some of you know that already. So it's important that we gather designs from you. That's a very important piece of this to Mrs. Steen. Okay? So when he says really just doodle, think outside the box, what comes to your head, plants that you have seen and love. It's not all gonna make it to the final design, but that's part of what we want to see from you guys,
Right.
okay?
If you can't, some people feel like they can't draw very good, and they maybe, their doodles don't mean anything to someone else. Right down there at the bottom or on the side, right, I'd like to see yellow flowers, or I'd like to see
Sure.
purple flowers, or
Or even the shape
the shape of
The shape
them.
is-
Sure.
Or
of the grass.
put your thoughts down in words as well as drawing it out. If
Yeah.
you don't feel comfortable drawing it out.
It's a nice way to
Can
say
I
it.
help you here just a little bit? Folks, see this little thing? That's on your drawing. It's hard to get your bearing straight. So use that as a landmark, kind of gets you straight about where the gym is.
What is that, by the way?
It's just a little decoration, a
There's like
little,
a garden there right now, right?
yeah. We're going to, excuse
Do
me.
you mind telling them how big, because that's a little shocking.
Sure.
About how small it really is.
Sure. Don't